Ooh, here we are.
Oh, now it's live.
Ooh,
Finally.
live.
Hello.
And that's how
listeners.
Andrew got canceled.
Dang.
Oh, they missed it. Oh no, they'll never hear about his horrible crimes that I committed in his name.
Yeah, whatever.
If you knew,
Season,
you
If only
canceled.
you knew.
I was gonna say,
spooky
Michael.
Area.
I was gonna say, Michael, would you want to talk about Throne of Blood or The Limey?
Yeah, I could talk about either. I'd probably have more to say about Throne of Blood because Macbeth is cool. I'll talk about Throne of Blood.
Throne of Blood.
Throne of Blood. It makes me think that is it
That was
Raining
great.
Blood, that Guitar Hero song that's just like Raining Blood, and that's all it is.
I like that Jesse's never played, like has never seen guitar. She's like, you know that song, like Raining Blood.
No, it was a Guitar Hero song, Raining Blood, but instead of
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it specifically Guitar Hero, or it was like a song in Guitar
It was
Hero?
a real song that Guitar Hero featured.
Are you talking about Dragon Force Through the Fire and the Flames? Where it's like that was the really hard
that's
one.
the one that's like
Yeah. That was the.
There is a Slayer song called Raining Blood. Maybe it's.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm talking about. Thank you.
I just
Okay.
I just googled it.
That's it. Nice.
What a
Slayer.
Nice.
There was a time when I was just into Dragon Force. What a fucking time.
Who's Dragon Force, buddy?
It's a
Oh, there
song
was
that they just existed to shred. Like there was nothing.
There was nothing impressive. Like they just
Yeah.
were like, let's just shred. All right, we'll rock and roll. We'll do Jess, Michael, and then Jessica for the order.
Yeah, it's this song. And then it goes. Eventually, they say,
You're gonna get us.
Yeah, you're gonna get us
copyright.
knocked. Please don't get us knocked.
Yeah, you are gonna get. They're gonna be like, ooh.
They really go after us about that.
Dude, Metallica was. Well, wait.
It's
this is
Slayer.
Never mind.
Slayer.
I was gonna say maybe Slayer was cooler about the whole piracy thing than Metallica was.
Yeah. All right. Jess, Michael, Jessica. Here we go.
Okay. Yep.
I'm last.
Oh shoot! Hang on. Wait. I gotta get to the recording thing. You don't want me to.
I'm last.
Jess, Michael, Zach. Is
Wait,
that what you
what?
said? And that
No,
Jess,
I'm
Michael,
last. My earbud fell out. Darn.
Wait, what's the
No,
order?
Jess, Michael, Jessica.
This is gonna be a fun episode.
All I
Yes,
know is I go
super
first.
episode.
So
Welcome to
I go after.
October, everybody.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. And welcome to episode 372 of Cinematary. I'm your host, Zach Dennis, and I'm here with
Jessy Alva.
Michael O'Malley.
Oh my gosh, my audio stopped working.
Oh my god! All right,
What
start it over.
happened?
Start it
Oh,
over.
I cannot
Big
hear
hands.
you guys at all. Can
Oh
you
my-
hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
brother. Brother,
Ugh, what?
can you hear us?
Okay, hold on.
Can you
Sorry.
hear me now?
What is happening?
Have you ever seen anybody actually do that in real life? Like, you go, "What's the wind?" and they go,
Not unless they're being dumb.
Okay, I can
"Exactly."
hear
Zach-
you now. I think
Zach, I was in the
wonder
Boy
if it's
Scouts,
because
and
my
100% I saw multiple people do that.
earbuds fell
Aw.
Yeah, because I feel like pop
Okay.
culture conditioned you to be like, well, this is what people do when they're in the wilderness.
Did that work? Like as an insider, Michael, can you like detest that? Or
I mean, we
attest-
were lost. We were lost all the time when we went hiking in Boy Scouts.
Well,
so,
you were a bunch
but
of
also,
boys,
I don't know
like
that
little
knowing the
boys,
direction
so.
of the wind would have taught us how to get found again.
I like that you addressed it like he was an insider, like you brought him in as a source on like MSNBC, and it's like, we're here on MSNBC right now. We got Michael O'Malley, insider for the Boy Scouts of America. Michael, tell us, were they licking their fingers?
Exclusive.
Were they licking their fingers to find out about the wind?
Apologies if we get copyrighted for the 2 seconds I played of that song. Probably won't, right? This doesn't even go on the
It's too late.
Spotify. This doesn't even go on the Spotify bit, right?
It goes on YouTube, the most
Jessica,
capricious
are you
of the
good now,
copywriters.
Okay, yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Okay, I can hear you. I don't know. I'm trying my earbuds for the first time, and I Bluetooth connected them to my laptop, and for some reason, when it fell out of my ear, they just stopped working, and I was confused. I couldn't hear anybody. But okay,
Okay.
I can hear you now. So hopefully
Good.
that doesn't happen again, because that would be bad.
Cool.
That'd be kinda
Ready?
fun.
All right.
All right.
Yeah,
there we
okay,
go.
hold on. I gotta stop my Audacity and then start it again.
Whoopsie.
That was lame. I don't know why I did that. Boo. Okay, I'm good.
Not
Probably-
Slayer.
Slayer took out your audio after Jessy.
Just cut that out or whatever when you put it on YouTube. I don't know. Sorry, I didn't even realize. I didn't even think about it.
Man, we've been live for 6 minutes and we've had racism, copyright infringement.
All from me too.
What's
apparently.
next? What's next?
No, the racism was for me because I made Jessica be last.
Oh well, you put me first,
but
and I'm
you've
also.
got
I know, I was
gonna
gonna
like
say
8 or 9
Jesse's
years,
also
right?
a woman of color, so
Am I of color, or is it just on the inside? I don't know. I feel weird, like opting.
I think we
or
all have
co-opting.
color on the inside. I mean, like, you know.
I
Like,
mean,
like
well, I just
Red.
feel weird, like being
Red and
described as a
purple and
woman of
stuff.
color when I pass as like very white. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I
yeah,
don't.
This
that's
is
true,
something
but
that
that's
I've
not
wondered.
that's not your fault. Like
what are we getting into? Let's just.
I do have
Jesus
questions
Christ.
on the
All right.
topic,
you
but I'll
can't
save them for
change
later.
the way you look.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. And welcome to episode 372 of Cinematary. I'm your host, Zach Dennis, and I'm here with
Jessy Alva.
Michael O'Malley.
And Jessica Carr.
In today's episode, we'll be talking about movies that we saw this week in part 1 and in part 2. We will be kicking off our Oct-ogre series with 2001's Shrek because we're digging into Shrek culture, guys.
It's the 20th anniversary, so
It's true.
It kind of passed like a minute ago, but it still counts.
same
Um,
year. Same year.
Same year.
But for those, if you're listening, head over to cinematary.com. We have our full rundown, full coverage of the Toronto International Film Festival with me writing a shit ton of reviews. Andrew also added some stuff on Wavelengths and Neptune Frost and I'm Your Man. But a lot of good stuff. You can find it at, I think it's cinematary.com/2021 TIFF. But it's also at the top of the homepage. So go there, check it out, read all the reviews, tell us how awesome we are. And then, yeah, then we can go next year, and the next year, and the next year. Will somebody get their alarm that's happening in the background?
It's not mine.
I don't know what's
It's
going
not
on.
mine.
All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into movies that we saw this week. We're going to kick it off with the with what is described as the most fucked up movie you'll see all year, and that is the latest from Julia Ducournau, the French director, and it's called Titane. We've talked about her. Was it her debut feature, Raw?
It was, yeah. Raw was her first movie.
Yeah, we talked about that on a series previously. This is her follow-up to that. This one.
What series was that?
Cannibals.
It was
movies.
female-directed horror, wasn't it?
Cannibal movies.
Cannibal movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one, we'll probably get spoilery in a little way into it. But this one, pretty much, you meet this woman who is just super into cars and pissing off her dad.
She definitely has daddy issues.
Zach, just read the letterbox synopsis.
The letterbox synopsis doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. So pretty much, no. So pretty much, this girl, like, really all you need to know is she got in a car accident and had like this metal plate put into her head, which has also made her kind of like a
when she was a kid. When she was a kid, she was a little shit. She caused her dad to get in a car accident. and she like busted her head
Whoa!
open.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's not a spoiler. It's in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
and
you
so
get it.
she did that, and now she's dancing, dancing on cars. She's
Slippery slope.
yeah, she's dancing on cars and sometimes fucking cars. And like, I'm not saying that as like
Alright.
like this just happened. Like literally, she has sex with a car.
It was so random, though. Can I just say, like, for something
how was
that
it
kind
supposed
of
to not be random? When do you?
I know, but
like
I don't know. I guess
casually-
I was hoping for like a little something. Like, how do they know each other? You know what I mean? Like, what's the chemistry there?
All right.
I don't know.
You need
It was just
a
like
meet cute
she was
between the car and
right.
the
She was
lady.
just kind of
It
like
was kind
hanging
of a
out,
meet
taking a little
cute. The
shower.
car was just like "Rah, rah, 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 rah," and she's like, "I'm taking a shower," and it's like "Rah, rah, 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 rah,
Oh
rah."
my gosh. Y'all are like going through the whole beginning of the movie.
That's right. That's right.
All right, fine. Let's separate into like what we thought. Jessica, lead us off. What did you think of Titane in the car fucking?
So
movie?
I didn't like it very much. And I was really disappointed because I loved Raw and I was in the minority on that one.
I liked Raw.
Enjoyed watching it a lot. And to the same effect, like Raw and this movie had like the marketing was sort of the same where it was like you're gonna be grossed out and surprised, and like with Raw they were like, oh, you have to have a barf bag in the theater and all that kind of stuff, and so it was already had this like shock value reputation to it, and this one did as well. And so going into it I was like, oh well, maybe it's gonna be good. And it was kind of like a lot of shock and awe and trying to be edgy, but not really connecting the dots or the plot points or like giving us reasons why these things were happening. And like Raw was a good example of so you have a metaphor of like coming of age and addiction and that sort of thing, and it runs through the entire movie, and so you can justify like all of the cannibal nastiness with this thing that she is trying to like give you. And Titane has that, like, it doesn't have that through line, and you could say that maybe it's supposed to be like a found family movie, but I don't think that the payoff at the end is good because of like I don't think we're given enough for those pieces to fall into place for us to feel compelled at the end. Like the first half of the movie is completely different from the second half, and they're like, this movie is trying to be so many things. Like it's trying to be like a drama, a horror movie, a thriller, a family movie, like a found family movie. Like it's trying to be all of these things, and none of them really added up for me like at all. And at the end I was kind of just like, why did I
Ooh, did Jessica freeze?
Why did you what?
Oh, ooh, Jessica, I think you froze there for a second, buddy.
Yeah, all of us did. Like it was loading.
I
think it was just you.
Yeah, I think it was just you.
Oh, wow. Dang.
So we heard you
Right.
say, why did I? And that's the last thing I heard.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I was just saying, like, why did I put myself through this when the payout at the end, like, wasn't that great? And I know that the ending of the film is supposed to be this, like, tender thing, and it just didn't really land for me.
Yeah. Sorry, Cooper's. All the lighting changes.
Zach, out of Jessy and I, Zach, you seem to have liked it more. So what did you think of Titane?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm it was a movie, I don't know, this might be somewhat spoilery, but like it was a movie that like kicks off with her fucking a car and then getting pregnant from the car. And then it's just
that is definitely a spoiler.
No, that's been pretty widely like expressed like since it premiered in Cannes.
I'll say I've not seen the movie, and that's literally the only thing I know about the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then like it just goes to all these like what happens after she fucks the car, then she like, like the acts that she does afterwards like escalate it, and I was like, and so then like you get into this whole second act with it's her and this firefighter guy where she's just like masquerading in this whole relationship, and I'm like, but she's pregnant with a car baby, and like that's always like, yeah, we'll get to that later. And I'm like, this is just wild. Like, how is that the secondary plot to this movie? Like, I feel like in the ranking of story, like of narrative beats, fucking the car and having its baby is number one. But this movie's like, no, that's like 2 or 3. I don't know. It's just kind of a movie that's like very, very just aggressive and I think I don't know. I kind of like the grossness of it like kind of paid off. Like it was just a really disgusting, like visceral experience. You have like those scenes where like what is it like the metals like going into the flesh and stuff, and like I don't know. I just kind of like there's just this whole like I'm unsure like body dysmorphia type thing going on that's just was kind of interesting to me because she's constantly like having to battle with like what she looks like, and then you have the metal baby thing inside of her, and then she's like trying to like hold that together, and it's just kind of like this like her body, not even like the car baby, but just like her body itself is just constantly trying to kind of like overtake her, and and she becomes like less of a person. It was just it was really just interesting to me, like as it kind of progressed, like how much it became like this Cronenberg horror movie. I like that.
Well, it definitely is kind of Cronenberg like body horror type of thing, but I don't know. For me, both the plots kind of had some interesting elements to it, like her kind of psychotic break and murder spree was confusing, but kind of an interesting plot, I guess. But then we just sort of drop it out of nowhere, and we just sort of drop it out of nowhere and then go to her pretending to be this guy's long lost son. And I don't know. I mean,
trying not to spoil.
That's what's in the
All right,
letterbox description. That's what's in the letterbox
let's go into spoiler
description.
territory.
Let me just get my
give it up.
Let me just speak my piece first, and then we can go whatever. That's not really a spoiler either, because I feel like, well, I don't know. That's kind of in the letterbox review or the letterbox description is this guy gets.
It's fine.
I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, okay. She finds this guy. She's on the run. She pretends to be a guy's long lost son, and she's not a guy, and she's also a pregnant woman who's
she's also not his son.
She's not a guy. She's not his son. She's a pregnant woman.
That's number one.
And so there's like just so much fixation on her, like binding her chest and binding her stomach. And I just like I didn't feel very compelled by that plot either. I felt like a lot of it was just really kind of boring. And there's sort of an interesting thing there where, you really see him struggling as like a man to really express his feelings and communicate. And he just acts very inappropriately sometimes, like touching too aggressively, too inappropriately in a way that it could have just been expressed much better if he used his words, but it's like he doesn't know how to do that. And so there's something interesting there where neither one of them really know how to communicate as real people. And there's so many instances throughout the movie of her making really bizarre choices. Like, why would a person ever make this choice? Like when she kills one of the characters kind of out of nowhere, like things were going okay, and then she like bites the fuck out of this person and then ends up killing this person. And it's like, why? Like, why? There was no reason. There was one murder that she does that makes a lot of sense because it was kind of an unsafe situation.
It was an okay murder.
I mean, not really. And the way she covers it up is so sloppy and strange. And the way she like kind of covers up some other things she does, it's just so sloppy and bizarre. Or like there's a scene where she just starts dancing in front of a group of people and everybody's just looking at her, so because it just doesn't make any sense, and she's still pretending to be a man at this point. And it's just everything she does is just so bizarre. It's like if you're trying to get away with murder, you're failing at that. If you're trying to pass as a dude, you're failing at that. And I don't know. So but it was just a combination of bizarre choices as a character that we really don't understand, that we don't really get a lot of humanity for either. Like from the very first scene, it's almost like the kid in the Babadook. From the very first scene, we get like this impression of her as a jerk, and that never really gets disproven.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That doesn't bug me. I mean, like,
Sure, and
sometimes
I'm okay
people are
with
just
movies,
shits, you know?
right?
Like,
and I'm okay with sitting with a movie where a person
Sometimes
is kind of hard to deal with, but I don't know, like that didn't make me feel very compelled by her either. And as the plots unfolded and they were stitched together, to me, they stitched together two movies that just didn't really go together, and I don't know, it just didn't land for me. I didn't really like it, and I thought parts of it, at worst, it was just kind of yucky and gross to look at and nonsensical, like with her actions, and it's also just kind of boring too at points. And I don't know.
Sometimes you just got to give people the old chopstick in the ear. Am I right? Like, why? Out of all of the holes out of all the holes in someone's face, the ear is the most egregious. Like, why?
The way the guy just starts like convulsing and foaming at the mouth when that happens, just there's just so much like watching her jam something or watching her body. Ooh, there's a lot of executed body horror, but
you have all that, and then you have what's interesting is you have like all of that going on, which is like like what you're describing, incredibly exaggerated and like disgusting and like over the top. But then you have like what's compelling to me is you have him, and he is like trying to kind of like keep his physique and like keep his energy up by using steroids, and like you can tell that like the steroids, which are something that normal people are using, like that's what, athletes are using it, bodybuilding, like people use those on a daily basis, and like you see how like that very normal thing is just like also just like eroding and like killing his body. And like so you kind of have like that parallel where you have him who's doing something that people do on a daily basis in reality, and then you have her and like how her body's like morphine. To me, that was kind of interesting. Just like you have this kind of this parallel between those two characters.
I was sitting next to Cam during the movie, and the whole time I was just like, "Oh God, what?"
Oh, I was doing that too. Yeah, it was very uncomfortable.
So I think that Julia Ducournau I think she has this thing with like human intimacy, like where they're like a person has to learn human intimacy because they don't get it from their parents. And in Raw, she's going to vet school, and both of her parents are doctors, and she is trying to like learn how to interact with humans, and the intimate part comes from like eating them, which is like obviously not good and is weird. But like, and in Titane, like this woman she doesn't know intimacy between humans because like they show that her relationship with her dad is very cold, and even like after the accident, which was probably her fault because she was kicking his chair, was like he was like not even, I mean, he was like cold and stone faced like the entire time. And then there's a scene where he's making himself breakfast and he like doesn't make anything for her, and she just sits on the couch like detached from her family and just eats by herself. And then paralleled with that is when she becomes the son of this firefighter and he cooks spaghetti for her, and it's like her dad versus this firefighter who is like her new dad. Like he cries, like she sees him cry and show emotion. He dances, he cooks for her, and she's like relearning human intimacy. He fights her. It's all of the human emotions, but it's all of these ways that you can be intimate with another person. But like at the same time, all of that is great and stuff, but there are still things where I'm like, okay, but why was she such a shit to her dad like in the beginning of the movie? Like, did he do something to her? Is she a psychopath? Like, is she a sociopath? Like, what's going on with that? And they're just like lots of loose ends that if you're trying to do the thing which I think that this director is trying to do, it just doesn't like add up to me in the way that it adds up in Raw. And interviews with her, she also says, like, I want you to feel what my characters are feeling. And I was like, I don't want to. I don't want to feel what this lady in Titane is feeling. And she's like kind of a shell of a character. Like, even though she is trying to learn this human intimacy, I still don't think that she really does. Like, at the end, when she's like about to give birth, she tells him, I love you. And it feels so hollow. Like, it's like, it doesn't land.
She tries to make out with
it.
him.
I didn't even focus on that. Yeah. She was having a car baby, and I was like, that's something.
She was like leaking a car grease baby all over the place.
She was leaking grease. She tried to kiss him. Like, there was a part where she's laying on his chest, and I was like, she is way too close to his penis for my comfort level. And then she inches up and tries making out with him, and I'm like, what the fuck? When is this movie over? Come on.
Just like detached from like human intimacy and like trying to relearn it, but not knowing, and it being weird and whatever, and all of that is fine. But then you have the horrors of like being a pregnant woman, which gets added into it. And it's like, if like her just itching like while she's pregnant, just like itching so bad she's like about to rip her skin off, and just like leaking oil everywhere. And between this movie and High Life, I'm just like lactating, like sounds awful, because every movie just shows women like leaking everywhere, and it just sounds
let me just say,
terrible.
At least like in a normal situation, you won't be lactating oil, so that's a win.
At least it's only milk.
Right.
It's only milk. It's not. You're not.
Is there a good movie about being pregnant? Oil. Anybody? Has there ever been a good movie about being pregnant?
I think we're gonna get to it in a couple weeks in Shrek Forever After. Shrek and Fiona have a baby. Well, Titane, it's in theaters now. If you just want to go and torture yourself for a couple hours, I'm gonna toss it over though to. I'm gonna toss it over to Michael, because Michael had to suffer through that.
Hey, yeah, I'm sold on Titane, honestly. Like, I want to see it. I know you guys didn't like it, but anyway, so I watched a movie that is nowhere near close to new. I watched Throne of Blood, which is Akira Kurosawa's Throne of Blood, the Slayer song, apparently. But it's also an Akira Kurosawa movie that adapts Macbeth and sets it in feudal Japan, and stars Toshiro Mifune as Macbeth. And it's great. And that's not a controversial take. I kind of feel like once you get past like Seven Samurai and like Rashomon and stuff, like this is one of the really highly regarded Kurosawa movies. But I'd never seen it, despite being a big fan of the play Macbeth, and having taught Macbeth a lot to my students. So I was like, you know what? There's that Joel Cohen Macbeth movie coming out later this year. Let's get caught up with some Macbeth adaptations. And so I got caught up with this one, and it's really cool because Kurosawa movies are pretty cool generally. It's my hot take, and this is good. Like, I think like there's like two ways that people tend to do Shakespeare adaptations. One of which is to change, I guess three ways. One of which is to change the setting but keep the language intact. So like if you think of like that like Joss Whedon Much Ado About Nothing movie, or like I'm sure there are better examples that I'm just blanking on right now. Then you have like the movies that basically throw out the language a little bit and just kind of do their own thing. And then you have movies that do both, which are few and far between, which is this movie. So it's like really interesting because Shakespeare is, and especially Macbeth, is so much renowned for its language. Like there's all the famous quotes in Macbeth, like double, double, toil and trouble, and like something wicked this way comes. And like Macbeth is just like Hamlet. It's like one of those where it's like every other line feels like a famous quote, because it is a famous quote. And so watching this movie in which you're not in Scotland anymore, and you're no longer even in Shakespearean language anymore, and the characters aren't called like Macbeth and Lady Macbeth and Banquo and stuff. The characters have period appropriate names for feudal Japan. I think that's really interesting because I don't know, like so much of reading Shakespeare is the like archetypal, like the fact that Shakespeare himself has become like an archetype and like running into these famous scenes and seeing famous scenes reinterpreted and are interesting for being reinterpreted because the original scenes have become so iconic. And so with this movie, you get a little bit of that, but it's even more defamiliarized just because they don't attempt to recreate any of the like famous lines. Like it's simply like it's almost like condensing the story of Macbeth down to like a fable or a myth, and then like recontextualizing it into like to where you still have a lot of the same themes at play, themes of like fate or like power or things like that, but it's filtered through another context where you still like the resonance of it changes. And so I don't know, I thought it was really cool like to see the play recontextualized to that severe a degree. Uh, and I mean, there's also just like the surface pleasures too, um, like it's really really cool to see Kurosawa like throw all of his might behind these battle scenes because Macbeth, normally being a stage play, has like really spare descriptions of what's going on, and a lot of times movies reflect that. Like if you watch like the Roman Polanski Macbeth or something like that, there's only like a few characters on screen at a time, um, and it ends up being like a pretty low key thing where the drama is coming out of the like psychological machinations of the characters. But with Kurosawa, he's all about those like huge battle scenes, and so you have like scenes that in the play are like two people talking to one another, and in this version, it's like two people talking to one another as like a huge battle like whirls around them. Um, and it's just like super super cool to have like people like literally dozens of people on screen at the same time. It's like some of them on horseback and they're all like fighting with one another as like you watch like the Macbeth psychological theatrics play out. And I just thought it was I don't know, like it's just a very fun, extremely cool movie, extremely stylish, and does stuff that I think really removes the play from like any vestige of like the theatricality or like the stage play element of it, and like really makes it cinematic in this really captivating way. Another great example is near the beginning of the movie when Macbeth and Banquo are returning from battle. Um, it's traditionally the part where they meet the witches, and in this movie, there's only one witch, and it's a really cool sequence there. But also surrounding that sequence with the witch is Macbeth and Banquo walking through fog for really long takes, and you just hear like these ambient sounds, and it really does this great work of just making it feel like that the witch has come out of time and out of space in a way, like this really ethereal being, where they come out of like the very tangible battle scenes that have like a lot of specific tactile details, and then they're all of a sudden in this almost nether world in which like the really elaborate sets and locations kind of fade away, and they're just kind of in this ambient space, and it's another just like really cool cinematic touch. So I don't know if the thought of someone going into murderous like poor choices because of having sex with a car doesn't seem appealing to you. Maybe the thought of someone in feudal Japan going through murderous poor choices because of fog will be more appealing, because I thought that was pretty cool.
As Michael, as somebody who like kind of teaches like traditional Shakespeare, what did you make of like the Kurosawa interpretation of the text?
I mean, for the most part, it's fairly straightforward. The ending, they do change a little bit. So, like in the traditional ending of Macbeth, Macbeth has like killed the king and assumed the throne, and then basically he's such a poor leader and such a paranoid leader that people leave his kingdom and come back with the former king's son with an army and destroy him in that way. And in this movie, It's basically that until at the very end when Macbeth and his men are sitting there in the castle, and I guess this is a spoiler, but I mean the movie is, I don't know what, like 60 years old, and the play is like 500 years old. So
I think
like
it's okay.
I think the statute of
Please,
limitations is,
spoilers.
Our listeners have had like senior high school English, I think.
yeah. So on the off chance that you were paying attention to Macbeth when you read it in senior English, you'll be surprised at the ending because Macbeth doesn't get killed by this battling army. What happens is that essentially like his soldiers get fed up with Macbeth and decide we don't want to die in a siege because of this dude. And so then they turn their bows on him and just like shoot him to death at the end of the movie. And it's this really
kind of
intense
like
scene.
Caesar his ass. They like
Right, yeah, and it's actually a really cool and intense scene because it seems like they're actually shooting real arrows at the actor, which is like really wild to see. Like he's like running across this like boardwalk kind of looking thing, and there's like arrows shooting around him. They're sticking into the walls, and like I'm sure there's some sort of effect being done so that it's or prop being used so that it's a little bit safer than it seems. But it looks really cool, and I think also thematically that works really well too, because Macbeth is deposed by essentially an insurrection rather than like a foreign power, and he's like a victim of his own circumstances, and his own country gets overtaken because of his poor choices. In this one, it's like the people rise up and kill him, which I think is like a fun variation on the Shakespeare play.
A fun fresh take, a fun happy fresh take.
It is. So I don't know. It's not a huge departure other than the setting and the removal of the like iconic language, but that ending is a cool and interesting variation. So I don't know if that was super insightful, Zach, but
no, I mean
that's my take.
I really like Throne of Blood also, and I kind of like I really also just like all of Kurosawa's Shakespeare adaptations. I think they're always kind of interesting, like the perspective he brings to it.
What are the other ones? This is the only one I know about.
There's oh shoot, hold on. Hold on. You got Ron. That one is one, and then there's the Bad Sleep Well, which is so you got Ron, which is King Lear, and then you have the Bad Sleep Well, which is Hamlet.
I had no idea. Yeah. It is interesting though because Shakespeare is so heavily tied to not just the English language, but like broadly like Western European mythology and folklore. Like Macbeth is so strongly associated with Scotland. The play Macbeth is so strongly associated with the English language. And the same could be true of like any number of Shakespeare's plays. Like, I think it's really interesting to see like someone adapting those stories in a way that doesn't hang all of like this Western European mythos on them. Because I don't know, it's just cool to see stories transposed like that to me. When I teach freshmen, which is not where I teach Macbeth, but when I teach freshmen, we go through mythology. Kind of like an interesting thing in mythology is the ability to have like kind of like this Joseph Campbell style like comparative mythology, where you can look at how different cultures interpret different like story forms. And I like the idea of Shakespeare itself being kind of like an archetype that you can draw on to tell stories that aren't necessarily tied to like the setting or milieu of like Shakespeare's own like vision of the world. And so I should check out those other ones. I didn't realize they were Shakespeare ones.
Yeah. Well, Throne of Blood is available on Criterion, so you can find it on the Criterion channel. I think for a little bit it was on HBO Max because they had a bunch of Kurosawa films on there from TCM. But yeah, I'm gonna roll up part one with Jessica. You had a movie to talk about.
Okay, so I lived in Bossier, Louisiana for a little while, which is like very close to Shreveport, Louisiana. And there is this film festival there called the Louisiana Film Prize. And it is a nonprofit competition where 20 films are selected, and they're usually made by local filmmakers. So you have to film them in Louisiana for them to qualify. And people come from all over to be in Louisiana to film the films there, because out of the top 20, one is selected and they win $25,000 in cash. And it's a film festival that is like very local. Like, whenever I lived there, it was this big deal. Like, everyone went and bought tickets there. It was at the Robinson Film Center, is one of the places they screened at, and they screened them at like historical locations all over Shreveport. And it was like a big deal to like go, and they separated the 20 shorts into 2 different slates, and you could choose like what locations you wanted to see them at, and they screened them over the course of like 3 days. And then everyone gets to vote. All of the viewers get to vote, and then the person who gets the most votes, like their film gets voted number 1, wins $25,000 in cash. And it is the first year that I went, like, I was blown away by how like many people participated in it, and they were so just like involved in all of the different films. Like, it was so weird because you would be like sitting in the audience, and next to you would be like the director of you like one of the movies you just watched, or like all of the people who were sitting around you were like in a bunch of the films that you just saw. And it was like, it's so localized and so cool. And like, it's like you see a coffee shop that you always go to, or it was filmed at this like bakery that makes king cakes, and it was like all of these things, and they throw in like lots of Cajun culture and that sort of thing. And like the first year that I went, my hairdresser made a movie. The lady who cut my hair, like, she made a film, and she was an aspiring filmmaker. Like, that's what she really wanted to do, but she was cutting hair to make a living. And her movie was amazing. Like, her short was so good, and it's just like insane. But this year you could attend virtually, which was very cool, because I like don't have time to go to Louisiana, even though I would love to go for this, but I couldn't. And so one of my clients is Jaya McSharma, and she is an aspiring actress, writer, and she's a doctor, but she wants to pursue acting and writing full time. And so I got my virtual ticket, and I watched all of the shorts, and she made a short film that she wrote and her husband directed called Nana Ki Dum. And it's primarily in Hindi. So it's like one of the first films in Film Prize that did that as well. And it is about her relationship with her father, and how they have differences in raising her son. And so they kind of argue about sleep training, because she wants to, and the short is like filmed mostly from her perspective. So it looks like a one kind of sided conversation where the camera is focused on her, and then you can hear her dad's voiceover as he responds to her in Hindi as they're having this conversation about kind of like disagreeing about the whole sleep training thing, because she's like, well, we can't like baby him when he cries, like we have to let him soothe himself. And the dad is like, no, that's like, you can't do that, he'll get traumatized. And she's like, oh, you're worried about traumatizing him, and then kind of has a flashback of her dad like being very hard on her for getting a B like on her paper. And so it's like has this theme in it about how like first generation immigrants, they're like, we have to prove ourselves, like we came here, and so we have to prove ourselves and work really hard, and you can't get a B on your test, because you have to prove that you're worthy to be here, so you have to get an A on your test. And there's all this pressure. And Jaya became a doctor because her family wanted her to become a doctor, not really because that was the path that she wanted to choose for herself. And so this film is like a really great expression of that, and how she has come to terms with that sort of thing, and like still loving her dad, even though he is flawed sometimes. And it's a really beautiful short film. Like the lighting in it is amazing. There's this like scene in a field where she's running in the field, and it's just, I don't know. It's a really beautiful short film. She made it into the top 5 of Film Prize, and she didn't win, but now that she made it into the top 5, they're going to distribute her short to film festivals all over the US. And I already was talking to her about putting her movie on Film Freeway so that she can enter it into a bunch of film festivals all over the US. And so, I don't know. I wanted to talk about it because I think it's really cool that there are people who are making these things. Like, and they're not necessarily like seasoned filmmakers. Like, these are all amateur filmmakers, and they all have this passion for telling a story. And I don't know, I just thought it was like a really beautiful thing. And if you want to see, she has another short that she made called Brown Bridget MD, and it's a comedy short, and it's on YouTube. So if you want to see her previous work, then you can. I don't think they're going to put this one on YouTube yet until it's done the festival circuit. But yeah, so check all that stuff out. And they're probably going to keep doing the virtual thing because I think they had a really good turnout for it. So if anybody next year wants to just keep Louisiana Film Prize on your radar, and you can buy like virtual tickets and you get to see all the shorts. There was also a funny short that they had this year called Mom Mento, and it was about a mom who like spills coffee on her planner, and then she just like loses her mind. Like, she forgets everything, and her whole day is ruined because she like can't remember what was on her planner that she smudged. And it's a very clever film. Also made it into the top 5, which is very cool.
Nice. It's cool that you got to watch that.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right. Well, we're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna get our green,
get our Shrek on,
get our green on,
Get
and
our
be
Shrek
ogres.
on.
So
Yeah.
we'll be talking about that after this break.
Cool.
Okay, so the first part of my audio is messed up because I figured out what the problem is that when I had my Audacity, like I had my earbuds as the microphone, I lose sound here. So if I'm recording with my microphone, my earbuds as my microphone in Audacity, like my sound just completely cuts off from you guys. Like I can't hear you at all.
Okay.
So I had to stop Audacity and then close out of it. And then I started recording somewhere after that. So,
okay. If you could do a quick recording of you just saying your name for the intro, then that should be fine. I'll pick it up somewhere.
Okay, cool. Technical difficulties.
Oh God, it's the empty man.
No, me.
Okay.
Okay, so I got the new track up. Do I need to start from the beginning, or should I start where?
Either way.
Okay, it doesn't matter.
It's fine either way.
Do I click this to go to the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
And then this is muted, so all I do is press record.
That's right.
Cool.
One day you'll get it.
There was one point where they were talking, and you started playing some loud ass video, and the door was open because the cats had left the door open, and everybody could hear your video. Also, there was one point where your alarm or something was going off.
Yeah. I was getting called. Sorry.
And then I was sitting here playing with these balls.
I'm sure that sounds good on the microphone.
Well,
Zach was like, "It's Jessy. It's Jessy."
Sorry,
Sounds like metal cleaning.
I was watching this video that Christina just put on YouTube about why she left teaching. It's like 40 minutes long.
Oof. Lot of
40 minutes long?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Also, at one point, Michael was very red. He just looked very red.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he got hot.
I think he's just a red man.
What all did we talk about in part 1, y'all?
Titane.
Yep.
Oh,
I
yeah.
heard some loud opinions about Titane.
Probably just me.
What was that thing that Zach said? He was like, well, she wasn't a son. She wasn't a son either. That was very funny.
What other than Titane?
Michael talked about Throne of Blood.
Throne of Blood. And Jessica talked about the short that she watched.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, Kingdom.
Sweet.
Nana Kingdom.
So we still have Shrek to go.
I'll have Shrek to go.
Yeah.
Well, somebody once told me.
Dude, man,
Oh my gosh.
let me just say, whenever he kicks that door open from the outhouse, and it's just, somebody, I'm like, this is fucking great. This is so goddamn great.
It's like honestly like maybe the most iconic shot of like a movie in the last 20 years.
It's so
Like in
good.
terms of like how famous it is.
Like
All
it
right,
just
save it for
he
the
just,
episode, y'all.
he just kicks it, and it's just
Close the door.
somebody wants to be that. It's like hell yeah, man.
I know. What a time.
What a fucking
I
banger,
looked
man.
over and Michael's just eating a big ass banana.
I was hungry.
Go for it, buddy.
My
Get your-
video
get
is
that potassium.
freezing. My video is freezing, so Michael is just holding the banana and it's like frozen.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I need to take a screenshot of it.
Oh, all right.
Let's
You guys
roll
ready to
away.
talk some Shrek?
Let's talk a Shrek. Or you
Let's
count
talk
in?
to Shrek.
Let's talk a Shrek.
We're live now.
Let's
I-
talk to Shrek.
I feel like we can chalk it up to not Italian racism, but making fun of Chris Pratt's
Pratt
Mario
being
impression.
Mario.
It's a
Yeah,
meme.
What
Mario.
are the chances that he's gonna like go full like try to do the video game voice?
No, I saw somebody who absolutely got it right, where they're gonna have like the actual like it's a me Mario, like they're gonna have that, and then he's gonna do like and then it's gonna be Chris Pratt's voice. He'll be like, oh, sorry about that.
You're right.
And then he's just gonna like lay into some like anti-LGBTQ views, and you're just like, Chris
Shoot.
Pratt, Jesus, all right,
Whoa.
we get it. You go to
whoa.
church,
Man,
man.
don't bring Mario into that shit.
Oh,
Well, they cast Chris Pratt, so that's what happens.
yeah.
What
I
a
think we just
fucking
need
bizarre.
we need to
casting.
cool it on the Chris Pratt thing. Like, we get it, okay? He's one of the actors.
We get it. He's an actor.
He's an actor.
We get it. He's one of those actors.
His
We
name is
understand.
Chris. We get it.
We know. We get
He's
it.
like such an
What happened to
interesting
the other Chris? What was that guy's name?
Pine?
Hemsworth.
Dude,
Yeah,
Chris
Pine. What happened to
Chris Pine is
Yeah,
the
what happened
best
to Chris
Chris.
Pine?
He's
Best
so
He's old
fucking
now.
good.
Still,
He's
Dude,
like
no-
got gray hair.
I'll
and
take
stuff,
it.
right?
I'll take
Chris
it.
Pine is so fucking hot. What are you talking about? Have you seen him in like
I
those
don't know.
shorts grocery shopping?
Drop that pic,
What?
Zach.
Yeah,
Drop it.
become the
Dude.
Drop
photo.
that pic, Zach.
Yeah,
Drop
let me
that
get your,
pic, Zach.
your picture.
Dude,
There's
Chris-
got to be like a subgenre of actor whose like worst career move was to become a blockbuster star, and I feel like Chris Pratt is that. Like,
I
Yeah.
mean,
when he was
worst
first getting
for
started,
whose
he was-
perspective, he's probably like rolling. Do you feel like
right,
he's
like
great?
monetarily, yes, but like for public image, it's
For
not
me,
been great,
yeah.
because he's turned generic and or
Mhm.
unlikable. You know, whereas at the beginning of like his career, he was kind of like fun and just kind of like, oh, you know, that's a like I don't know. Did you guys ever watch Everwood? It's like a
No.
WB show.
Mhm.
Where
I know
he's
what you're
in.
talking
It's
about.
like his early, and he's just kind of like winsome and like kind of funny.
The
I
first
love the
step
use
is
of the
that
word winsome there.
you get jacked, and then that's it. Like once you
yeah,
lose weight
that's it.
and you get all muscly, that's it. Look out,
That's-
Kumail
that's all she
Nanjiani.
wrote.
He's ripped now. He looks like handsome Squidward. So you just don't. You just his career is next. He's gonna be
Handsome
cast in
Squidward.
everything.
Oh man, you actually delivered the picture.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
you
he-
did.
good. He looks. Chris Pine looks good. He looks good.
Chris
He
Pine's
does look
fucking
good.
hot. He
I have that
In-
hat.
He looked really cute in the Star Trek movies. I thought.
I love how bizarre this outfit is, but somehow it works.
Aw, those little. Look at those sandals.
Just
man.
like
He's so
fucking do
cute.
it, man.
It's almost like a Hassan Piker
Okay.
get up or something. Like it's just
Yeah.
totally bonkers.
all
but
the
he works
all the
it. I
other
don't know.
Chris. Actually, you know, if you want to go like off the beaten path, Chris Messina.
Ooh, I don't know who
I
that
don't know who
is.
that is.
Oh my gosh,
All
please
right.
don't. That one time I was on that episode with you and Ash, and y'all just went in on Chris Messina. I
Dude,
was like,
where's some? Let me
y'all.
see. Chris Messina. What's that? Amy Adams show.
Messino?
Oh, that guy.
Messina.
Messina. Never heard of him.
Messina. He was like, did you see the Birds of Prey movie? He was in that.
Nah,
He was
Yeah,
fine.
but that's not really the thing.
henchman, dude.
Doesn't do it for me. I'm just gonna search
Oh, he's in
hottest
You've Got
Christmas.
Mail.
Honest Chris's.
Yeah.
I like Chris Hemsworth. I think he's
And
cool.
best Chris's in Hollywood. Let's see.
I'm just saying, Chris
Chris
Messina's-
Pratt is way down on the list for me.
No, that's
way
true.
down.
Not a good
What
leading
about
man.
Chris Hemsworth?
I'm a
Did he
fan.
look up?
Big
Yeah.
fan.
He's
Yeah.
Australian. Come on.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah.
He's got to get out of the Marvel universe. Like, I feel like that. I like him as Thor, but like that's played out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's gotta
Wait,
get some
he's
air in
supposed
that
to be.
career.
He's gonna be in that Furiosa movie.
Who?
Oh, really?
Take it.
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth and Chris Pine. All the
Oh.
other Chris's can go do something else. Preferably not Mario.
All right, we gotta talk about Shrek.
Okay.
Let's talk a Shreka.
Talk of Shreka.
Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. And welcome back to part 2 of episode 372 of Cinematary as we kick off our Oct-ogre series with 2001's Shrek. The film directed by Andrew Adamson and Vicky Jensen from a script by Ted Elliott, Terry Rossio, Joe Stillman, and Roger S.H. Schulman. Film stars Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, and John Lithgow. Once upon a time in a faraway swamp, there lived an ogre named Shrek whose precious solitude is suddenly shattered by an invasion of annoying fairy tale characters. They were all banished from their kingdom by the evil Lord Farquaad. Determined to save their home, not to mention his, Shrek cuts a deal with Farquaad and sets out to rescue Princess Fiona to be Farquaad's bride.
Can we just pause for a second? That you're summarizing the plot of Shrek.
I know, it's great, isn't it? Rescuing the princess may be small compared to her deep, dark secret. After
could it
purchasing this is the interesting. So after purchasing the rights of William Steig's 1990 book called Shrek, in 1991, Steven Spielberg planned to produce a traditionally animated film based on the book, but John H. Williams convinced him to bring the project to DreamWorks. In 1994, Jeffrey Katzenberg began active development of the film in 1995, immediately following the studio's purchase of the rights from Spielberg. Chris Farley was originally cast as the voice of the title character, recording nearly all of the required dialogue. After Farley died in 1997, before his work on the film was finished, Mike Myers was hired to voice the actor, eventually settling on giving Shrek a Scottish accent. This is the best part, though. Nicolas Cage was initially offered the role of Shrek, but he turned it down because he did not want to look like an ogre. In 2013, Cage explained furthermore, quote, "When you're drawn in a way, it says more about how children are going to see you than anything else, and I so care about that." The film was initially intended to be created using motion capture, but after poor test results, the studio hired Pacific Data Images to complete the final computer animation. Recounting the inspiration of making the film, Williams said, quote, "Every development deal starts with a pitch, and my pitch came from my then kindergartner in collaboration with his preschool brother. Upon our second reading of Shrek, the kindergartner started quoting large segments of the book, pretending he could read them. Even as an adult, I thought Shrek was outrageous, irreverent, iconoclastic, gross, and just a lot of fun. He was a great movie character in search of a movie." The studio referred to the film's animation as breakthroughs and the holy grails of the medium, with Katzenberg saying the computer has been revolutionary in animation, not evolutionary revolutionary. There is absolutely no question that Shrek is far and above anything that's been done in computer animation. During production, though, animators who failed while working on other projects, such as the Prince of Egypt, were often sent to work on Shrek. The reassignment was known as being Shreked or being sent to the gulag. In 2001, the New Yorker said about Shrek, "What the film lacks is the faintest glimmer of charm." In 2001, the New York Times said, "Beating up on the irritatingly dainty Disney trademarks is nothing new. It's just that it has rarely been done with the demolition derby zest of Shrek." And in 2001, Roger Ebert said, "Jolly and wicked, filled with sly and jokes, and yet somehow possessing a heart." So on that note, I'll be honest. So like with this series, people are probably at home asking why the Shrek series, and I'm not super interested, at least in this episode, to like run through Shrek. Like I think it's a movie like not go through the moments of Shrek, because I think it's a movie that's ingrained in people of a certain age's mind that it's not worth the time to go like, well, my favorite parts were like none of that. I think the central thesis of this series is why Shrek? Like why 20 years later does it really just have like this like
reverence?
Well, not even that, but also just like this hold on not only like pop culture, but is also like crossed over into like internet culture as like this meme, as like this kind of just figure of not even like I don't even know like what to describe Shrek in terms of like just kind of like this weird, just outwardly outlandish addition to things. Like it just, there's something about like the uncanny valley of Shrek as well as the animation style of Shrek that I think has just like endeared it into the internet world. And to me, I'm just gonna say that's the conversation we're gonna have, because I mean I think that 20 years now, people know Shrek, people know the lines in Shrek. I mean, I'll just say it's a deeply entertaining movie. It's so fucking crazy and weird and strange and wonderful. And so I guess my first question is, again, like what about Shrek do you think endears it because of that? Because it's a movie that's spoofing spoofing Disney animation, but it's also like kind of talking about folklore and pop culture, because the whole conceit of the story is you have like these fairy tale characters but then you also have like humor from like the modern world being brought in. Like it's just like this kind of weird amalgamation of like modern pop culture and like traditional fairy tales. And so I guess my first question is, what do you all make of that, and do you feel like that kind of has a do you feel like that's part of the endearing quality of this movie?
I mean, I think like the movie Shrek is incredibly forward thinking in terms of like what it's doing. Cause like if you think about in 2001, like the sorts of like irreverent, like genre agnostic, like even like intellectual property agnostic, like comedy that I kind of feel like comes to define like the internet. Like the internet is like this cross section of like really bizarre, like surreal stuff with like just a hodgepodge of like intellectual property / just characters like sludging around. Like that's like kind of like internet humor, meme culture, like whatever. And I feel like Shrek predates that and predates like most of that taking hold. Like if I think about like the really like landmark developments and like those things, like Shrek like is coming out around the same time as like Futurama and Family Guy, in terms of stuff. Like The Simpsons have been around for a while, which I think like also like kind of sets the stage for some of that stuff. But if you look at like in movies, like the like style of Shrek where you have like just this like bizarre like just like unapologetic crassness of incorporating whatever it takes to get a laugh, and like licensing whatever it takes just to like shortcut into like storytelling beats. Like there's a little bit of that like prior to Shrek. Like there's like Disney's Aladdin maybe, or even like Disney's Hercules, and a few other things. But I think like Shrek is a real like genuine landmark in the development of that kind of humor, and just the way that it intersects like these like, it also like represents like these colossal like media empires like battling it out. Like Jeffrey Katzenberg was in line to become CEO of Disney and then didn't become CEO of Disney. Instead, Michael Eisner became CEO of Disney. And so like there's a lot of Shrek that feels like very like
punitive toward Disney in a way that I think is just hilarious. And I think like, again, like presages like the whole like corporations as like Twitter avatars kind of thing, you know, where you just have like so much of Shrek is just like a piss take on like not just Disney animation, but like the Walt Disney Corporation. And like there's just so much of it that feels forward thinking. And like for me, like Shrek gets a lot less interesting when it ceases to become that. Like I forgot, like I hadn't seen this movie in its totality in like probably a decade at least. And I forgot, like, to me, the movie really starts to drag when it gets into those serious character beats in like end of Act 2, Act 3. But like that first act is just such a like was it like the New York Times that called it like Demolition Derby or whatever? Like it is like really delightful, like just how off the wall and like genuinely like pissed the like first like 30 minutes of the movie is, and like just the really bizarre and surreal way that it like mashes together all of these like things, like extra textual and then like in the movie stuff. And I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of what I was left with after this watch.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also one of the first movies, like animated movies, that got a lot of like a star-studded cast rather than people who were routinely cast as voice actors, like Michael Myers, Cameron Diaz, Eddie Murphy. So that probably, I don't know, brought it more on the public eye than anything else. And then, like Michael says, just the way that it doesn't try to be kind of like a soft movie. I feel like it kind of set a tone for a trend of movies that just had a lot of like, I don't know, gaseous, like fart kind of humor and gross out humor. Like, I don't know, think of like stuff in Ice Age, or I don't know. I don't know how much that was happening before Shrek, and I feel like it really opened up a new brand of humor that kids probably responded to pretty good, because kids think farts are really funny.
Farts are funny.
And then also just like the constant needle drops. I mean, all those songs, almost all these songs there, like that was my first exposure to Like a Virgin or Hallelujah, or like pretty much any of those songs. I'll hear those later in life. Like we were watching the Muppets yesterday, and they were singing that song. Their guest star was singing that song. I'm all alone. There's no one here beside me. And I was listening to that, and I was like, where do I know that from? And I was like, oh, Shrek. And so there are all these things. Like these are some of my
there's
introductions to certain big pop culture things.
There's people who talk about Jeff Buckley's Hallelujah through the context of Shrek.
Oh it's not even Jeff Buckley's Hallelujah that plays, though. It's Rufus Wainwright's.
Oh, even
Wait,
better.
is it Rufus Wainwright or John Cale? Which one is it?
Let me see.
Regardless, it's kind of a funny like deep cut version of Hallelujah.
Yeah, but like that's where like I think a lot of people like were introduced to that. Jessica, what about you?
So I guess I watched Shrek when I was like a child, but I don't really remember it very much, and I didn't really like hold on to it like as a kid or anything like that. But I recently rewatched it as an adult and was like, this slaps like so hard.
Great.
And I think it has a lot to do with, it's weird because in the synopsis, it says that Shrek is likable. It says like likable ogre. And like, I don't think that he is at all. I think he's like very grumpy and he wants to be left alone. And he's like very reluctant, like to be anyone's friend or to help anyone. And his motivations are very self-centered. But at the same time, you like throughout the movie just kind of like fall in love with him because you're like, oh, of course he just wants people to get out of his swamp, like that makes sense. And also everyone just keeps like bugging him all the time and he just wants to eat onions and just like have a good time. But like the onion metaphor is so sweet, where he just has layers to him and he's like stinky and ugly, but like whatever, we love him anyway. Who doesn't love a good onion? Am I right? It's like, it's so good. I don't know. It's so good. And I think that that's the reason why maybe it has lasted like in pop culture for that long, because like the kids who watched it when it first came out are now adults and we're
Mhm.
rewatching it and thinking like there are still relatable parts to it as an adult where you're like, oh yeah, we also reject this like conventional idea of fairy tales, and we also embrace people like being who they are and being accepted for who they are.
Mhm.
And so that like sort of message in the film like is very relatable and is very cool that they pulled that out of like a popular kids movie. That they were able to do that is really cool.
Mhm.
I will say
But-
also. Go ahead, Zach.
Well, I was gonna say that was one thing that I was kind of thinking about a lot with this most recent rewatch was just like, you think about. I think if you think about pop culture, especially like in relation to fairy tales and folklore, like those are kind of the same things. Like pop culture today are the folk are kind of our fairy tales and folklore in a different sense, more modern sense. And so it was interesting watching Shrek this time because like it you do kind of have like I think it also plays in the what Michael was talking about earlier with the kind of Disney like just like kind of poking at Disney, which is very like entrenched in like these traditional fairy tales and kind of building up that mythology. But also like I think it also is kind of playing against there's just something about that dissonance where you have the modern the modern jokes, the modern music, just kind of the modern sensibilities up against this very traditional folk tale or fairy tale. And it's kind of like those two things, which are very similar, are like going on top of one another. And I don't think like I think that it's something that this movie is engaging with that's really interesting that I don't think any other movie is really like kind of played with.
Mhm.
I was going to say, kind of related to that, I think one of the reasons why Shrek has the staying power is that it, like, in terms of how we think about fairy tales and, like, the ideas of fairy tales, and the way that Shrek is kind of a revisionist slash, like, kind of sarcastic approach to fairy
Mhm.
tales and, like, folklore, like, it wins that conversation. If you look at like the Disney movies or like many movies or like Anastasia or like even movies that aren't Disney, like that are before this, there's a very sincere approach to like telling a sweeping story with like you maybe have like comic relief characters and like honestly like one of the funnier like this is an aside, but like one of the funnier Disney digs in this movie is the fact that they cast Eddie Murphy as the annoying comedic sidekick, and they're just telling him shut up the whole movie, which I think is like, as someone who doesn't really enjoy Eddie Murphy in Mulan, like I think that's very funny.
I forgot about him in Mulan.
But I guess like this whole thing where like now every movie that is telling folklore is a revisionist take on folklore. Like and every movie that is telling a like a fairy tale setting has all these anachronisms in it. Like even Disney, like Disney movies have contempt for Disney movies now. Like something like Frozen or even like elements of Moana like are like steeped in this kind of like postmodern like perspective of fairy tales in which they're self-aware of their own tropes. Like there's the scene in Moana where like Maui is like or I can't remember so and so like maybe Moana talks about how she's not a princess and he like runs through all the tropes that she's run through and he's like, you're a princess in a princess movie or something like that. And like it seems like Shrek wins the conversation. Like Disney's sincerity goes completely out of vogue and is like completely still out of vogue. Like there's not very many movies that are telling like folklore or even like stories in general that don't have that kind of veneer of sarcasm and like self-awareness with their own tropes, which I think is like super interesting for that. Shrek was the one that like basically like toppled that tone.
Yeah, and like Fiona's character is like incredibly groundbreaking, like specifically for like little girls to watch and see like her embrace her body. And it's like it's a curse, but she like is loved for who she is, and like she decides like I reject what this like image, what I'm supposed to look like, and I embrace like what I really look like. And it's very, very cool, very wholesome, little message in there.
Mhm.
And like I grew up watching like all these Disney princess movies and not relating to any of them. Like I was like obviously a chunkier like little Asian girl, and so like all of the Disney princesses were like completely unrelatable to me. I related to Lilo from Lilo and Stitch, which was like all I had basically. So it was nice to have Fiona as well.
I kind of also want to just talk about like because you think about that, especially. So why is it still in, why are people still watching it today? I think that self-reflexivity is very important because you think, like to Michael's point, that's something that's kind of important, I feel like, to the audiences that would be kind of consuming this, especially going back to the point I made at the beginning about like why it's become so prevalent in like internet culture. I think that's what it's. I think that kind of self-reflexiveness is what speaks to audiences who would be younger people who would be using that would be on the internet and be active on the internet. Because I think you think about a lot of media, whether not just the movies that Michael described, but there's a lot of media now that kind of wants to be self-reflexive to pop culture traits. You think of a lot of movies that are kind of like taking a trope or an archetype and trying to kind of turn it on its head in a more modern way. Something like people really responded to something like Booksmart, which kind of takes tropes and tries to kind of flip them around. And so I think that's kind of starting the discussion on like why is it prevalent today and why is Shrek popping up on the internet all the time. I think that I think for millennial and Gen Z audiences, I think that's kind of like that self-reflexiveness is something that's important in pop culture. Or am I off? What do you think?
No, I mean, it's weird to hear Jessica say like she doesn't really remember watching it, doesn't really remember it being a big part of her life. Like I remember seeing it in theaters. I remember the theater I saw it in, and I remember like it's not even open anymore, but it was in my hometown, Crossville, and I was in, I don't know, probably second grade when that came out, either late first grade or early second grade or something. And I don't know, like watching it today, there's just so many scenes that I could almost just like recite verbatim, or just like so many needle drops or like specific phrases that I just, or even facial expressions, like the way Donkey will move his ears, like I don't know, his reactions. There's just something about it that like it's just like they'll never get out of my brain. Like it's just so, and I can't explain what that phenomena is. Like, was I just a kid that watched a lot of the same stuff over and over? Or like, what was it about it that was just so ingrained in my memory space? Why? I don't know.
I think it's also, I think I'd be curious to get Michael's take on this, but I think it's also like just the animation style. Like it's such
I wanted to talk about this.
It's such an, like I said it before, but it's such an uncanny valley animation. Like
I don't know.
you still have like, because you still like, it's so there. It is like for its time, it was very revolutionary, but at the same time, it aged immediately. There's just something that seemed to like depreciate. It was kind of like a car. It's like you like immediately when it went off the lot, it just went down in value.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of plays into it because there's something even more than you think of like classic Disney movies where they recycle cells and kind of that kind, and you'll see copies and such like that. Yeah. This because it's like coming from the computer and it's this computer animated where you would think you could avoid having to do that. There's just something that seems like almost, I don't know, like there's just something uncanny and very like unsettling about like the animation.
I don't know. I guess I don't see
like
it. I don't see it as uncanny or unsettling. Like to me, it's kind of charming, but maybe I'm just
no. It is. No,
I got this weird addictive relationship to it or something.
I say this with like incredible like admiration for it. Like it's just so strange, Michael.
Or you like pause on a crowd scene and realize that like half of the people have the same face in the crowd and things like that. Like so I think like there's like something really awful about like that particular like maybe up through like 2005 or 2000. Well, like honestly, like the early to mid 2000s. What is that? There's an alarm.
And
Sorry.
I'm so sorry. It's
Uh,
Andrew again.
But like that early era where people besides Pixar were making feature length films, even some of those early Pixar's like are showing the cracks, but like Pixar was really artful about like what they chose to make movies out of in CGI so that they could avoid really awful like looking stuff. So like the first Toy Story like shows its age, but it's at least meant to be inanimate objects. But then like a lot of the other studios didn't have any sort of like they had no problem with just being like, we're going to have all sorts of human characters in our movie in which the technology is not quite there to uh, animate human characters in CGI. And like, I think a lot of those movies look terrible, and that is a disservice to the movie. Like someone brought up Ice Age a little while ago, and I think Ice Age looks like absolute trash. Like, and it is to the detriment of the movie. Like Ice Age would be a better movie if it were just a traditionally animated, like 2D movie. But like with Shrek, there is something like so beautiful about just how dead-eyed and uncanny everything looks. Like it is like perfect for the movie, and I think like on a number of levels. Like one, that kind of just irreverent humor just plays better when it's with animation that just kind of looks like they kind of look like dolls, and not in a good way, like kind of dolls that are being jerked around by like invisible strings, and just I don't know, it's just like somehow funnier. But then secondly, like as a counterpoint to Disney, which by like the early 2000s had like was using this extremely expensive animation, like 2D like cell animation technology, and had like really refined like this like really classy animation look, and then to have like the rival that like topples like Disney and Pixar, be this like ugly movie where they don't really care about what the limitations of their animation are. They're just like going for it. Like we're going to have crowds of humans, and we, even if we're not going to animate all their faces individually or something like that, like there's just something really like brazen and hilarious about that. Cause I think the animation in Shrek looks awful, but it is like working really well with the movie. But another thing that looks really awful about it, honestly, is that computers were really good at making textures and lighting and like dust and like particle effects before they were good at animating like skin and flesh and stuff like that. And so you get some stuff in the movie, like the way that their eyeballs are like shiny and reflexive, but the rest of their bodies don't look that realistic. Like there's just something like really interesting about the moment in CGI animation that it captures, at which like it was doing the absolute greatest things that CGI could do at the time, and by doing so, it shows like all of its limitations as well. And it's like interesting as like a historical object, but also like I said, it looks terrible, but it fits with the movie, I think.
It also just like opens itself to, I mean, like I can't, if you like just Google Shrek meme and look at images, there's just like this distorted, because you also just like add like what you're describing, Michael, into like just into like World of Warcraft and Fortnite and stuff. And so like you put it into like these digital sandbox spaces, and Shrek has become like this avatar, like has become this like avatar to, what's the best way of just almost like an anarchy of just like, I don't know,
Just
like how to describe it,
mischief,
but
like
because it's just like I was like, there's just things where I was watching this one GIF, and it's like in a video game, and like there's Shrek and Shaggy from Scooby-Doo and Rick from Rick and Morty, and they're all like firing laser gun, and I'm like, what the hell is this? But it's like
the internet's Mount Rushmore right there.
Yeah, and it's like because they've like modded him into the game, and I don't think it's anything other than it's like Shrek looks weird. Shrek looks funny and weird, so we have to like he has to go in there, and like that's just fascinating that like he's become just this thing that has to appear in videos and video games and stuff because the animation looks weird. I'll be, this one honestly, out of all of them, I think the second movie is like we'll talk about that next week. I think the second movie is my favorite because that one actually is like kind of has like a little bit of, I like the narrative at least in that one. This one though, I put it on Letterboxd. This one is legitimately like an unrateable movie. I don't know how you would give a star rating to this movie. I think it just encompasses so many different things that I'm just like, I don't know how like you could be like, this is a 3.5 star. This is a 4. Like, I just don't know how you could do that. How do you all feel about like trying to like rate or quantify Shrek as like a movie?
I had it as 4 stars. I don't remember the last time I watched it. And then like I logged it again as 3 stars, but I don't know if that feels right. I will
What's your
never
bet?
forget Shrek. It will never not be a part of my brain space. I don't know.
It's like one of those movies that like kind of to your point, Zach, like kind of defies ratings because the things that I find interesting about it and enjoyable about it are really interesting. But there are definitely a lot of things I don't like about Shrek as well. And I'm not sure if it's like functional as a movie. Like I said, like I really don't connect to the emotional beats at the end. Like I like the theme, like you guys were talking about the body image. But like the Hallelujah montage is just like, I don't know. The more sincere this movie gets, the less I'm able to connect with it. And I think it like shows like a bad trait of like family movies in which like they front load all of their fun stuff and then they're like, oh crap, we now have to have like a character ending, plot and character. And I kind of felt that way about Shrek. But like how do you rate a movie where it is so interesting? Like for me, like as an animation enthusiast, like watching this yesterday when I watched it, like I was just fascinated by like the depth of like disdain this movie has for Disney. Like they have like Eddie Murphy quoting the like racist crows from Dumbo when he's flying, right? Like they have like when Fiona transforms into her true self as the ogre, she does the same little like light beams from her fingers that like the Beast does when he transforms at the end of the Beauty and the Beast. Like there's like so much stuff and so much attention to detail that I think is just like so interesting and entertaining, like contained within a narrative shell that I don't really care about. And I don't know how to rate that either, I guess is my point.
Jessica, can you rate Shrek?
Yeah, I gave it 4 stars and a heart. I rated it so easily. I don't know what these guys are talking about. I mean, it has like flaws and stuff. I don't know.
Where?
I don't have anything.
Name one.
Name one.
I don't have anything in my brain
It's
where
perfect,
I'm like,
3 stars.
I can't give this a rating. Like I think it's not perfect, so I wouldn't give it 5 stars. And I wouldn't give it 4.5 because like a dragon wants to like have sex with a donkey, so I'm not gonna give it like 4.5. But like
why are you analyzing this?
Probably
you're analyzing
probably
it so
4.
deeply.
4 is
Like
good.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, well,
and like
we didn't say which donkey.
And
She's
also,
any donkey.
How can you not give it 5 stars when if you watch through the credits, they have the whole
karaoke dance party, man?
Yeah.
You know what? And we rented the DVD of it from the library, and it didn't do that at the end of the credits. And I was like, hold up, Andrew, we gotta watch this, like the fun surprise at the end of the credits.
Andrew.
And then we waited and it didn't come, and so we had to go to the special features and go out of our way to play it. And I was like, this is an outrage. I don't know why they would not have put this at the end of the credits. Obviously, I had that VHS. That's what happens at the end of the movie. Come on. Ridiculous. Karaoke dance party is unforgettable.
5 stars.
5 stars alone, just for that.
You said it was unrateable. What do you?
I gave it 3 stars.
No, Jesse said it was 3 stars.
3 stars. It's amazing.
Zach said
it's
5.
No, I said 5 stars for karaoke dance.
For the karaoke dance party.
Okay.
I'm gonna have some bottom.
But like circling back to the whole pop culture thing and it like resurging in our like internet dumb today, like on TikTok, there's this weird thing where like hot women will cosplay as characters and they love cosplaying as Shrek specifically. And there's a woman who made an onion purse. Like she was so proud of the fact that she made an onion purse. And it's like between like Shrek and also Patrick from SpongeBob for some reason. Like women love women love cosplaying as them, and it is, I don't understand, but it's like cool. It's not weird, and it's not like, oh, whatever, like you're weird, why did you do that? It's like everyone thinks it's so cool. They're like, this video has like 1.4 million hearts, and people are like, wow, lady, you're awesome, that costume is so great. So it's like, why I want to know, like, why is that a thing?
Please share that with us as soon as you can.
I have to find it. I'll have to find it on TikTok. She went to like a
Wow.
Renaissance fair.
I mean,
like,
if I was a
dressed as
super hot
Shrek.
cosplayer babe, I would like really stretch the limits of what. Like, I was talking to Paige about what I should be for Halloween, and she was like, "Oh, you could be like hot female Gandalf," and sent me a picture of hot female Gandalf. I'm like,
yeah.
man, the sky's the limit when you're just a babe and you have like a lot of money and you can just buy a ton of costume stuff and makeup and just do whatever.
I still can't find a bald cap. Like, I've been looking everywhere for a brown bald cap.
Could you get one?
Spoiler alert, they don't exist.
Could you get one and
They
get like a little
don't
foundation and kind of?
Yeah, I'm gonna have
Anyway.
to. But
Yes.
you know, it's hard. It's hard out there for cosplaying women who are trying to be bald or Shrek or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I also, like, to Zach's point of like the video game thing, there's also a lot of memes where they have and was it a Snapchat filter or something where you could have like a little Shrek that you could put everywhere, and he would be like dancing, and you could just like put it all over stuff, and it was like it was just funny. They would just put it in random things, and I was like, why is this a thing also?
Well, it's like he's just kind of like this non sequitur internet, like more than like being a character in the movie franchise Shrek. He's become like this non sequitur, just like comedy icon thingy for the internet, and it's just like it's strange. It's just, I don't know, but yeah. Any final thoughts on Shrek as we kind of wind down? I mean, I think it'll be interesting as we get deeper into the series, because I think like Shrek and Shrek 2 are ones that people know, but like once you get into like Shrek 3 and Shrek 4 and stuff like that, I mean,
yeah. I don't think I've seen Shrek Forever After, the weird alternate universe one.
Ugh,
and I
don't
maybe
remember
have seen 3, but I'm really not sure. I know I've seen 1 and 2.
I've definitely seen.
And also I will say for 2, my introduction to that song, like boop 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 boop. Never not think of
Funky
Shrek
Town?
when I hear that song.
Is that
Funky
Funky
yeah.
Town?
Yeah.
That song? That's Funky Town.
oh, my
I'll never
introduction
not think of
to
Shrek.
David Bowie's Heroes came from Shrek 2, so
Yes.
I don't even remember that song being in Shrek.
I need a hero.
Is this Smash Mouth covering it?
no.
Nah,
Have some
disappointing.
dignity.
With the
This is
first
Shrek.
movie ends with Smash Mouth covering the monkeys, so I think dignity is not on the table.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Wait, All Star is not Smash Mouth's original song?
No.
No, it's I'm a believer.
It's the
Oh,
monkeys, but it's
Yeah.
Smash Mouth singing it at the
I'm
end
a
of the movie.
believer.
wow.
God, we were talking about it. We were talking about it before we started recording. That's my final thought. Nothing slaps as fucking hard as Shrek kicking open the outhouse.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
Yep.
somebody wants to like
Yes.
just the fucking best.
Oh,
Like
dang.
that hit the other when I was watching this, and I was just like, yes.
Yes. There were so many moments I was just watching it and I was like, and kind of looked over at Andrew to see if he was laughing, and he was just kind of like,
no.
I love
Andrew
it.
was like, "Give me more Muppets."
I was
not
like,
Shrek."
No,
Andrew,
Andrew
I
is
think we have a
actually
real
a big
Donkey
fan.
and Shrek dynamic here, wherein I'm Donkey and you're Shrek. I'm just always singing some obnoxious song, and he's just like, "Does he please?"
Donkey's a good friend. He's a loyal
He is.
friend.
What were you gonna say, Michael? I interrupted you.
I was gonna say I have it on good authority that Andrew loves the Shrek memes. He and I are big fans of the Neil Cicerega
God.
mashup albums that heavily features Smash Mouth's All Star and Shrek imagery. So, yeah, Andrew's just putting on a cool facade. I know deep down he was singing along.
I'll tell him. I can't wait for him to listen to
Oh,
this.
sorry. Yeah, whatever.
Heard it before.
I heard it before it was cool. Before Shrek was in an outhouse, whatever. I also want to say, absolutely love John Lithgow's voice performance in this as Lord Farquaad. Just fantastic.
Lord Farquaad is great.
He's a just
whole...
a great character. Like the whole scene with him and him and the gingerbread man at the beginning, like just fantastic.
The Muffin Man.
The Muffin Man. that's the thing about, like, you can just watch, like, I don't know, like, you just watch the movie and like you just start, like, at least for me, I just start quoting stuff. I'm like, where the hell does this come from? Like, I can quote that whole scene.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Muffin Man scene. I'm trying to think of it. I also love the scene when they have the Robin and his merry men. That's a great scene too. Great movie.
Oh,
I like how you began this podcast saying we're not just going to go through recounting.
We're not just going to talk about it. At the end, we can.
It's so funny how Fiona just kicks everybody's ass, and it's funny, especially because, like I said, we've been watching a lot of the Muppets lately, and like it's Miss Piggy's whole meme is like she'll randomly get pissed at somebody and just break into like black belt karate mode and just go hi yeah and just beat the shit out of people, like yeah, they got something in common there, Fiona and Piggy. It all comes back, man. It all gets back. The Muppets.
Just with you all, it's, you know.
It all comes back to the Muppets.
Well, Kermit's also green,
Not
so
It's true.
Oh my goodness.
Kermit also finds his way into internet culture, so that's fine.
Love him.
That is true.
All right, well, that will wrap up this episode of Cinematary. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cinematary, on Letterboxd or on Twitter and Instagram at handle @Cinematary, and on Letterboxd at letterboxd.com/Cinematary, where we have all the movies that we talked about in this episode. Check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/Cinematary. Thank you to our patrons: Cam, Chad Newsom, Christina Daughtry, Corey Willingham, Harry Eskin, Candace Sisson, Ron Hayes, Tyler Chandler, and Whitney Riel Ross. Thank you so much for your patronage. Like we said, next week we're going to be continuing our Shrek series with 2004 Shrek 2, which again is my favorite. The I Need a Hero scene.
Wow.
Good.
Goes hard.
It goes hard. And you get like the whole weird. We can talk about the whole uncanny valley weirdness of human Shrek. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
We can dig into that. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching and listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
So I'm just now